at the back of the houses used to be the chain shops. And if you'd go at 8 o'clock at night, it would all be lit up. And as you was walking up the street, you'd hear them singing the old rugged cross.
The old rugged cross.
Sinking sands, he lifted me, all these hymns. And then they'd come out about 9, a crust of bread and a lump of cheese and half a pint of beer, and that was the day. They was properly slaves.
A lot of the things that we are proud of in the Black Country, like our closeness of community and all that, were created by the very difficult conditions under which we had to live and work. And if you lived in a back-to-back house in the 1920s and your wife was going to have a baby, you've got to depend upon the woman at the back of the, in the backyard to come and look after it.
Used to work harder than the men.
They did.
Of course, we've got to carry our bricks on the bustle. Now pushing in the barrows and nothing. There used to be 8 girls in the drawing and 8 girls in the setting. And they'd all got to carry their bricks the same. And it was hard work then, I'll tell you.
Look at that lady over there. She made a double twisted back band.
That's it.
It's a beautiful piece of work. If you've never seen a double twisted back band, you've never seen a piece of work. It's like a woman knitting in wrought iron.
We don't know any different, do we, from working?
Unless your husband's got a good job, you can't afford to stay at home.
If you want something, you've got to go out and get it, haven't you?
That's right. You know, but sitting at home waiting for it to come to you, you've got to work hard to get it, haven't you?
You can't walk out of here and say, oh, I want to get a job tomorrow somewhere else, because there's no jobs now. There's nothing there.
The Black Country was known for chain making, in a factory or at the back of the house. It was done by both men and women at the time. One of the biggest chain manufacturers in the area was Noah Hinchley, who also made the Titanic anchor.
They've been making chain by hand in the Cradley Heath area since the early 1800s. A lot of small-sized chain and shackles was made for chain companies by outworkers, whole families who made chain at home. They'd make chain in a workshop at the bottom of the garden or at the back of the house. They'd buy in the iron and coke from a chain company and sell the finished chain back to them at the end of the week. Over the years, chain making, along with the anchor business, grew into a prosperous industry, drawing on the skills and brawn of the local men till the Black Country character became known for what he was: hard working, hard drinking, hard living. Most chainsmiths learnt the trade through family connections. The know-how was handed down generation to generation. As a lad, he'd go to work with his father, getting the knack of handling tools, learning the right heat of the fire for bending and welding wrought iron links. It was a hard life for a lad, taking at least 7 or 8 years before he could call himself a chainsmith. Incidentally, they'd only pay him for the links he'd shot, and then only if up to scratch. Wrought iron bar is cropped to length. The straight link, as it is then called, is heated in the breeze fire. Using his bending tongs, he puts the link into the bender and bends it U-shaped. After refiring, using his holders, he wraps the bent link round the point of the vicken. Then with his hammer, he welds the link. To finish off the weld, he uses the tommy.
just a little boy, me grandad said to me. There ain't no finer chain is made than here in Cradley. You can search the whole world over, and I mean anywhere. The chain that's made in Cradley is way beyond compare. Oh, get your chain from Cradley, Cradley, Worcestershire. Made by Cradley craftsmen, let's raise a mighty cheer. Reliable and strong, for use on land or sea. If it ain't made in Cradley, it ain't the chain for me. Me grandad let me work his treadle when I was just a kid. It
is really quite interesting. So Lloyd's Proving House tested the great chains and anchors for Hingeley's, the surrounding area, and once their strength was proved, they will be hauled out and lifted onto wagons by their mammoth steam crane, the tracks of which can still be seen on the other side of the canal. So there is actually still tracks over there somewhere. So at one point it would actually be quite interesting if the tracks are still over there, over on the waterside estate, so it might be worth a look at one point. But just right here you can just see there's a really old chain. Look how heavy this chain is onto here, look, and it's really interesting. And the crane, I think there is like a little bit of like an old crane somewhere down the bottom. It's by where the canal ends and splits off onto the other section, so we'll go and take a look at that later. But that is quite interesting information about Lloyd's testing house. But we'll have a look see if there's any more on Hingeley's of Neverton. So I do know he actually owned an old Victorian cottage. I don't know if many of you know where Drew's Holloway is, just further right at the top. He actually owned an old cottage there known as Haverton Lodge. It got knocked down many years ago, and they're actually building something else on there. But if you do walk past it, there is an old plaque there stating that Noah Hingeley and his son actually lived at that site, which is quite interesting. So N. Hingeley and Sons was a firm that originated in the Black Country region of the United Kingdom. It was founded by Noah Hingeley in 1796 to 1877, who started making chain near the village of Cradley. The firm moved to Neverton around 1852, where large-scale chain and anchor manufacturers' works were set up on the Dudley No. 2 canal. One of the most famous products of the firm was the anchor of the RMS Titanic, which on completion in 1911 was drawn through the streets of Neverton on a wagon by 20 sheer horses. So that is really quite interesting. So the Titanic anchor, there is actually a replica in Neverton itself. Where you go through the little like town towards the top, there is a replica there. So further on now what the replica is actually like, so that's quite an interesting thing to look at.
So it's looking like a link of chain now, ain't it? With a gear on it now. There's a few ends, I'm just left on each other just to touch it. That's it shut now, make the link solid. All the way round, knee up. Now we're going to finish our link off now by using a Tommy hammer. So you'll put your foot on there. Now give you some hammer. Go on all the way down, go on.
Now nail making wasn't a very skilled job, not like chain making. If you were good at it, you made chain, but if you weren't so good, or you were only doing it part-time, then you did nail making. A good nail maker We'll probably do one of these about every 10 seconds. It wouldn't take you long to learn how to do this. Come on, get in there. And all you ended up with at the end of the week was about 10 shillings. You didn't really cut through that one far enough. There you are. Now you've got to knock it down.
Mrs. Hannah Baker's 90. She was born when the Black Country's fame as an industrial empire, its air choked with black smoke 6 days a week, was at its height. Her little house in Tipton still has its original grate and no electricity. Mrs. Baker's lived in it for 63 years, at the end of a red brick terraced row well over 100 years old. The houses are condemned. Sometime soon they'll be knocked down. Unfortunately, from the outside anyway, compared with some of their modern equivalents, they've almost assumed a glow of warm, friendly antiquity. Hannah Baker married, as a pretty young woman, with Victoria still on the throne. She's lived for 90 years with the thunder of industry in her everyday life.
Well, I remember the canal. Oh, I was just married then. The canal bursted, Burntree. Barnett's backyard, he drained it out of Burntree. I remember the Earl's furnaces going. The coal used to come down on the big trucks down the incline, down to the Earl's work, from their pits. Well, then there's a pits over the road there. There were all pits along there. Gardens on the top of it. And then they started to build about 40 years, I dare say now, since they started to build over the road there. They were all fields. They used to have the big hay rick right opposite here. I remember that because I used to take the teas when they come from school in the field. I used to watch them over there. I know they were all safe then. The furnaces, like the sky, all look beautiful. It used to lie nice and light at 12 and 1 o'clock. But now it's dark at 7. You used to have it nice daylight. I've been sitting on the steps outside here all hours, especially when that was the pub next door. I used to come and sit there, a lot of people. I used to been out there lovely nights. You see nothing of that now, though. The people are not the same on our home today. Where you used to mix up together and do anything to anybody, they wouldn't do it today for you. I used to bake for a neighbour next door to me up in the other house when she was confined. She used to bake for me. We used to do it for one another. We didn't want paying. But we hadn't got no money to pay at them days. 18 shillings a week. Your husband would have a shilling out to buy a bit of baccy. You got 1 and 6 a week for your bit of furniture. So I'll leave you to guess what you got to spend then in the house, but everything was cheaper and better. We were happy with it. Yes, we were happy.